Oh,
I can record now.
awesome. So this is amazing because this conversation began with a truth seeking, truth journeying camaraderie, warrior spirit that we share for truth. And it's led to financial empowerment because of the connection that you brought up of the Billionaires Club and these conversations that go on that really result in decision making for the globe. And so we were vibing on the idea of becoming billionaires so that we can go enter the lion's den with our medicine. And that's something I could really get behind. And then what we got to is, well, Yana, you've so beautifully mapped out a course for yourself. And that's going to be something that I would love to return to, just financial empowerment for the people, finance for the people. I want to return to that idea. And then you just made such an amazing point when you said that there's a lot of growth that you're gonna need to go through to be among that the elite, to be a part of their club. So I just I just love this so much. It's just like wealth consciousness at like an extreme, like anything's possible level of consciousness with wealth. Like, you know what? I'm just gonna recirculate a bunch of it to me so I can get right into the belly of the beast.
Yeah. Yeah. And the reason why I wanted to mention that is because in a spiritual community, one of the very common things I've noticed is that um, poverty mindset, where I cannot be rich and wealthy and be spiritual, that those two don't go hand in hand. Then in order for us be spiritual, we must live in the forest. Of course, that's the extreme, but we have to connect with the wilderness. We need to live in the wild. We need to disconnect from technology. We need to disconnect from the world. And that is how we achieve enlightenment. And that is how we reach this spirituality level and state that we all want. Whereas, yes, very true, but it is also very possible because our genetics have already been altered and have already been changed, whether we want to admit it or not. We are more than capable of living in the world that we're living in the way and blending in with everyone else and seeming normal, whatever normal is nowadays. I mean, that word itself makes me want to giggle. Um, and seeming normal and actually have a lot of wealth, financial wealth, because wealth just doesn't just mean financial wealth, right? To some people, wealth means something else, but financial wealth can be achieved and we can maintain that spirituality. And guess what? When you are the Buddha of the world and you have all the money in the world that you could ever want and need, and you can then use your wealth and use your power and use your wisdom and knowledge for the greater good of the whole entire humanity. and and as scary as it sounds, be one of the maybe one of the only reasoning voices among the elites, because you can buy your way in there. Okay, anybody's curious? I have another crazy idea that I came up with, and now I already told Rachel what it is, but I'm thinking of actually having a collective YouTube channel where different people can record stories. That it's not just me, that it can be anyone really that has a story like this, right? In a newspaper for anyone that
Now
lives
that
in this area.
now that I'm thinking about it and I'm looking at that YouTube image behind you, the YouTube logo behind you, I'm realizing YouTube will probably shut us down.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Here's the thing. Everyone that speaks the truth and the big people don't want to hear it, they will shut it down. But the thing is, if it is recorded and you still have it, you can continue to pop up in different places. So my mind says that cannot be the only place that it's put on. It needs to go in other places as well. And if anybody else knows where, feel free to connect with us. And I mean, the goal of all of this is to share the knowledge that people are sharing, right? It takes a lot for anyone to even print this and leave it at the door. And of course, it's the newspaper boys and girls that bring it to the door that they don't understand it. But things like, um, there's one part in here that I know Rachel got really shocked about, and it says, I'll just read a little bit. You will no doubt hear a lot more about the Great Reset over the coming months. Prince Charles can't stop badging on about it. Sesame Street's Groover flogs its benefits to the youth.
Sesame Street.
I mean,
You're right when you said it's the next industrial revolution. Do we remember the last time education was industrialized? Do what you're told. Don't ask questions. Don't challenge authority.
yeah, exactly what's happening. And that's why you mentioned if we put it on YouTube, you were challenging authority. And guess what happens? Your whole YouTube channel will be taken down.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's why when this happens, when we create this, there needs to be a backup. That I
Mm-hmm.
mean, and again, the fear of everyone, and that's why a lot of people continue to stay silent. That's why I stayed silent, and I continue to still want to stay silent. But if we all stay silent and we all stay submissive, right, and if we all do as we're told, what's going to happen is we won't be human anymore.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep. I thank you for bringing that up because we're all going to feel it's our time to speak up at different times. I was really enjoying the peace in my life, the reconnection with family. A lot of people who just don't necessarily research the way I do, or find their just like dig for information the way I do. Just a little background on me. At one point in my life, I wanted to be a journalist, an investigative journalist, and I was really inspired by a lot of Hunter S. Thompson's work, and he was a gonzo journalist. And so when I saw that publication, I got really excited because I've been wondering what happened to all the journalists. I mean, the investigative journalists are being held prisoners and all over the world. Um, and so the fear of persecution comes up because the powers that be have been very successful in silencing the, anyone who's speaking the truth. And um, so fear of persecution was playing a big role in my own feedback loop, like the overuse of conspiracy theory. I felt hesitant to speak about anything because of the number of times I've been called a conspiracy theorist, and I've been like, what? I've just been doing some research, and it's right here. Like, what do you mean? And when it came time, something that really pushed me over the edge of like, all right, I've got to stop worrying about being called a conspiracy theorist, was when I was called a conspiracy theorist for bringing attention to human trafficking.
Mm.
And that was just something like, especially after watching the Jeffrey Epstein movie, like that is part of the billionaires club. It's the billionaires and human trafficking. They're like one. And that should be no surprise. Um, that should be no surprise. As we seem to joke about as a civilization, prostitution is the oldest career in history.
Yeah, and those are the people, those are the elites people that are deciding on what's going to happen. And actually, I'm going to correct that statement. They have already decided. There's already a plan. And if you want to be part of the conversation, you just need to have a couple of $1 million to be a part of this group discussion and be part of them
Mm-hmm.
and help them to continue with pushing of their plan, of their agenda. If these billionaires are doing human trafficking,
Mm-hmm.
like just pause for a second, okay? Mothers and fathers, if you have a child and your child is taken, and years down the road, when you already thought that your has child's life has been taken, years down the road, you find out your child is alive and this whole entire time has been sexually abused, what's going to happen to the world that you know? Those are the type of people that are in power and in charge of deciding what's going to happen to the human race. I don't know about you, but I don't see those types of people as a healthy human. They are human. I'm not going to take that away from them. They're human. But what they're doing is inhumane. And it just takes a little bit of a sickness, a disease in the way,
Yep.
to allow them to do that. And then when somebody else around them makes it normal for them, says, oh, yeah, it's okay. I'll benefit from that. I'll benefit from that. Oh, that's fine. I'll become richer. They normalize it for them. So then they don't see anything wrong with what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but I am terrified of having those kind of people deciding what's right and what's wrong for me.
Yeah. Well,
It's bad for me.
we as coaches, especially energy leadership coaches and core energy leadership, we understand the mentality behind behind those in control. Control itself is the mentality. So when we study the 7 levels of energy, each level comes with a mindset of time and money, among other human constructs. So the mindset of of money at level 3 is control. So we're also going to find power hungry people living in that mentality. And the patterns that power hungry controlling people exhibit are all becoming clear on individual levels. We're finding in our own relationships, a lot of empaths are waking up to relationships with narcissists, well, for now label it that, narcissists, psychopaths, sociopaths, and those patterns are all the same. Control level 3, and then level 2, the mindset's conflict with the around money, it's greed. So control, don't get their way. Level 2, force, greed. um, so it should be no surprise that these are the patterns. We've been experiencing them in our individual lives as a collective, victims to oppressive energies. So it should be no surprise that these are the patterns we are co-creating as a whole, as a collective. So if you just think about that mindset, yeah, that checks out, that those in control have all found each other and are all figuring out how to have all the control, all the power.
And like energy attracts like energy.
Mhm. Yep. And so this is why I get so jazzed about the idea of infiltrating the billionaires club. We'd have to probably delete all of our content, but ahead of time. And but yeah, if we infiltrate it, I don't see any reason they there couldn't be miraculous expansion within there, and reasoning and like, you don't have to do this, you can make other choices, you can, we will take care of you if you choose to give back to humanity. We will make sure everybody wins. Like, it's not the 99% versus the billionaires. It's like, let's get to the root cause of why you feel the need to control all of us so desperately. Like, think about how desperate someone from that mindset gets when they're losing control. They're willing to kill people.
That's not even a hesitation. It's not even something that they really think about. Because think of it also this way: there's way too many people on this planet. We all know it. So it comes down to, let's play a game and
Yep.
see who survives this game, who perhaps grows in this game, and then we can continue to play this game at a different level. The strong survive, the weak do not. So let's let them weed themselves out.
Mhm.
And the way that it's happening is actually we're doing it to each other through not being able to listen to one another, right? Not understanding, getting angry, getting violent, bullying one another on the internet, pushing each other to the edge or off the cliff, figuratively and literally speaking. So all of these things are happening, and this was already part of the plan that we don't have to do anything. We just create a whole bunch of BS, put it there in front of a couple of people that are gossipers, if you will, and they will let it spread it like wildfire. Just watch the planet burn, and some will raise from the ashes,
Yep. Yep.
right?
And if you think about it, like, I've had moments where I've just kind of looked at their plan and stood back and have clapped for how brilliant it actually is. To, in less than a year, they have us shaming one another over masks and whether or not we are down with getting injections. In less than a year, I am someone who takes my time to understand what's going on,
Yeah,
to withdraw. I take my time to withdraw from the chaos and take and research thoroughly and understand what's going on here through the chaos. What's the I discern patterns within the chaos, and it takes time.
I'm just gonna show one of these things that is in this.
Mm-hmm. And this should be no surprise.
A
This
secret, actually. It's
is
not a secret. It's all available online for anyone to read. I've also been talking to Shell, and she reads a lot of these things. It's all available on their website, on World Economic Forum. There's a bunch of stuff available on there. It's not a top secret. It's not. Um, yeah.
and it can be overwhelming because along with allowing this kind of information to enter our feedback loops and allow it to travel to our hearts, to our intuition, and give it time to see if it checks out, can be a really overwhelming experience because I know it requires multiple levels of identity dissolution um, and heroes or anyone we idolize or idealize fallen from the pedestals. And I can share an example. I watched Michael Moore's documentary Fahrenheit 11/9 with my parents, and my family was all super into Obama and the Obama administration, and watching with my parents, there was a part in the documentary where it shows Obama's trip to Flint, Michigan. They Shortly after um, the city of Flint switched the residents' water from the clean water from the Great Lakes to the Flint Lake or Flint River water. And so for 7 years, the residents of Flint have been only had access to this poison water, poison with lead. And their residents have been just dying. They've been left to die. And when this first occurred, they needed help. Michael Moore was there saying we need the Army Corps of Engineers. So Obama shows up. Everyone thinks that they're going to be rescued, that they will have clean water returned to their city. And instead, Obama put on the show that everything was fine. So much so that he pulled a stunt in a high school, speaking to the residents of Flint. The water in the high school had been shut off. There was no running water there to keep the high schoolers safe. And Obama pulled a stunt where he coughed, and then he was like, does anyone have a glass of water? And someone comes with a glass of water. It's a glass of water from Air Force One. It was not Flint water. He takes a sip to act like the water's fine. And then he just went off doing his job, president doing his press conferences. And I saw my mom that her cognitive dissonance. I felt her stress of being faced with this information, and she was able to receive it and then move on by avoiding looking deeper into the implications behind it. Because the implications behind it is, yeah, they don't give a fuck about us. This is ethnic cleansing. This is eugenics in motion. They're just leaving cities to die. And when you piece it all together, it should be no surprise that they have this mentality. I have no doubt that the Billionaires Club have convinced themselves that this is what's best. That this is what's best for humanity, for them to just kill off certain people and repopulate the way they see fit.
That just breaks my heart. And I have a feeling that the presidents that they choose them for a reason. Okay. That there is a much bigger game that has been being played for after the World War II. They've already had plans well ahead. It's like 1 year we'll get this monkey. We'll put this monkey in front of us while we are working in the behind, right? And the president does what he's told to do. Otherwise, accidents happen, right? We've all seen accidents with presidents before. And so you have this perfect monkey in front of you who will do whatever you want them to do, while the elites in the back, the 1%ers, are dictating what's happening. So for all we know, because I mean, we can speculate about this Obama trip. There's many theories. One theory could be he had no idea and he was just told this, but the other theory is that he knew and he didn't care, or he knew and he cared, but he wasn't allowed to express it and show. He just had to do. I mean, there's a lot in there, but at the end of the day, that was his opportunity to say something and do something. But at the end of the day, if he has fear of something happening to his family, he's less likely to go and do something about it. And that's the scariest part of this all.
Yep. That's actually something that my initial disappointment in a lot of his decisions was met with compassion when I thought about, he's a dad. He's going to do anything for his family. And after seeing people like the psychopaths of the world, like Jeffrey Epstein, how far they're willing to go to silence people. um I do have compassion for if you have a family to take care of, then
Yeah.
you know that's a really tough decision.
Yeah. And that's the scary part about speaking up.
Hmm.
And it still scares me because everybody, it's no secret. I have a family,
Hmm.
right? And everyone, and it's like, do I go and speak up? Do I go and follow this calling that I have, or do I sit here and ignore and do nothing about it? And I felt like I sat here and ignored and did nothing about it since April last year because, simply put, nobody was ready to hear anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because anything I would come out and say, it would always be met with a lot of resistance, and you're crazy, you don't know what you're talking about. But that's the thing. The spiritual community, they don't need to know what they're talking about. They already know what's happening on a spiritual level. We can feel it. We
Mhm.
know without knowing. We don't need evidence. And then all the evidence does is just proofs, but we already intuitively knew.
Yeah.
And then now we've been telling you guys this for how many months now? Practically a year almost. And we're the crazy ones. And yet you're slowly starting to shift your mind and recognize that what's going on here right now is well beyond most of the human comprehension level, because the way that people have been conditioned to live is you wake up, you get ready to go to work, you work for pennies, and you always are, your focus is on I need more and I need more and I need more money, without pausing to recognize that money is what's really ruling the world.
Mhm.
So it's not money that we need, and yet it is money. And there's different way to get that money without being a slave. And if we really pause and look at the whole entire world, pretty much the whole entire world is full of slaves, because there's only a group of people that is benefiting from a group of slaves. They've just become smarter at their game.
Mhm. And it's just as you're speaking, I'm picturing American dollars, like the physical green dollars, and I'm seeing the presidents on those dollars, and and recognizing they were all slave masters.
Yes.
So none of, those presidents on the dollars enslaved people. So none of this that we are experiencing should be a surprise. I think that there's, going back to what you were saying about the spiritual community, something that we've worked our way through are the shadows, and we've come back understanding how to choose love over fear. So we see what fear does as though we're on the outside of the bottle looking at the label. So anytime we're watching the way that the media manipulates the psychology of a collective, we can see it for what it is, and we also understand the chaos of fear. We understand that when we are living with fear and through the lens of fear, and this has been hysteria, a year of hysteria, like toilet paper wars over, like within like the first weeks. It's just been chaos. So through that lens of fear and hysteria for a year, uh the spiritual community understands that's not the wisest, most clear place to make decisions. And so I think that's why it's tough for people in the spiritual community, because we do really enjoy peace, but at the same time, we understand there's a path to get there. It goes truth, and then justice, and then peace. And so we're really in. I think we are in between the second and third stage of truth that Bruce mentions, that Arthur Schopenhauer quote, that all truth passes through three stages. First, it is ridiculed. I
Yeah.
think we're through that. Second, it is violently opposed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Kind of
And
like in the middle of that now too, in a way.
yep, very much in that. And then third, it is accepted as self-evident. So more of us are getting to that place, but we're still very much in stage two.
Yeah.
And then after that, we'll achieve justice.
Yeah.
And then peace.
Exactly. And honestly, with all the process that you've just mentioned, one thing, because I already mentioned to you, and some of the viewers and listeners might have heard that I'm in the process of creating a boundaries course. And as anyone decides to sit down and create a course, they go through a lot of struggle up in the mind, up in the mind, because it comes down to I'm not good enough. Who the hell am I to create this, right? That there's better people to do the job. But for me, I'm starting to realize, and it's also, is it really needed? And what I witness more and more, I'm starting to really notice boundaries, a lack of boundaries showing up in every conversation that I have with people. Now that I really, really understand what boundaries means, because that's why I called it intuitive boundary setting, because I've been doing it intuitively without knowing what the hell I was doing. In my own life. And this is where I found my own peace and I healed myself through setting boundaries, but I didn't call it boundaries.
Yeah.
I call it self-discovery, and speaking up for myself and owning myself and saying no when I want to say no and saying yes when I want to say yes. So I've been calling it different things, but I'm recognizing that it's boundaries. And now a lot of people, they're struggling and suffering, and they're feeling a lot of pain when they're now being locked in their house with their partner who and children, where there is no boundaries in the house. And but the best way to identify if boundaries are missing, you already know this, right, Rachel? Level 4, when you're level 4ing through life, and then you go to level 1 or level 2 and level 3. So level 4 to level 1, and then you get angry, and then from there you might find yourself rationalizing through things. So I'll give you an example. At level 4, right? I'll give you a personal example. I When my daughter was born, I was doing everything and anything for her from day one. I did not want anybody's help. I didn't want anything. So I would be taking care of her. I'd be taking care of myself. And I wanted to be the superwoman, the Wonder Woman. So I would be cleaning and I would be cooking. And then in that process, I kept giving and giving and giving more. Then you add another child on top of it. Okay. And you give and give and more. And I found myself completely lost because my job, I was the go-to person for everyone, for anything, whether it was work related or personal life related. I was the one that they would go to. If anybody needed help or needed to cover overtime hours or anything, I was the person that would do that. And outside of work, anybody that needed me as well, they would come to me and I would fix their problems. I would give them the solutions. I would help out. I would take the time out of my own life and I would dedicate my time to them. Um, and that was going on for years, kind of always giving, giving, giving. And then when it was time for me to receive, nobody knew
Yeah.
how to give me what I wanted because I was the Wonder Woman, I was the Superwoman. I did not need any help. I got it all. But eventually, even the Superwoman needs a freaking break. Even the Superwoman needs help and support. And I was level 4ing through life, and it was working great until it was not. And then from there, I would go to the victim level, which is level one. And for me, it was I'm not good enough. I'm not doing enough. I'm not giving enough. I'm not worthy. And then I also lost my job. So that just magnified everything by like 1,000%. And all the other voices of everybody else in my life started coming up in. And in order for me to get rid of those voices, I would go back to level four and I would give and I would help and I would support and I would fix and I would feel great. I did it. But none of that was for me. It was for
Yeah. I'm
exactly
just picturing a scale going meow, 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 meow.
exactly what it is. And I've always found a way to rationalize through it, which is level three,
Yeah.
right? I would rationalize why I'm doing this for this person. Oh, they can't. They can't do that. They need help. But again, now having gone through coach training, I recognize I'm like, oh my God, I've been enabling people and I've
Yeah.
become their go-to person because I did not set those boundaries in place. Because if I told people I cannot work overtime because I have a child, they would not be calling me. And they
Mhm.
would not see me as any less than I already am.
Yeah.
I would say, listen, I understand your problem. I feel you. I understand you. But I'm not going to give you the help. I'm not going to tell you what to do because I believe you already have that in you. So instead of me doing it for them, if I just empowered them and I allowed them to start believing in themselves just a little bit, that right there is also a boundary. I also say, I'm not doing it for you because I know you can't. So why would I be doing that for you? I'm really just stealing your education away from you. I'm the one benefiting in the end and you're not. So that right there is already in this whole conversation. I personally have already identified a lot of boundaries that I did not have a place. I had no boundaries in place.
As you were speaking, I was like, I'd like to sign up for that boundary course because I'm recognizing uh sometimes level five, expansion to level five for me, after that cycle of 4 4 4, I'll reach a point of exhaustion, brief exhaustion, and then I'm like, all right, that's it. Level five, we all win or we don't play. It's either, just objectively like, all right. And and the results that I'm achieving do not seem to vibe with everyone.
But you're not here for them. You are living your life for yourself. I'm living my life for myself. I'm not living my life for my kids. I'm not living my life for my partner. I'm not living my life for anybody else. I'm living my life for me. And the way I live my life, the way I put myself out there, everybody else gets rewarded by being near me, by being part of my life. I don't live my life for anybody else. And it took
Oh,
me so long to get to this point to recognize that I am living my life for myself on my terms. So, which means that I need to set clear, healthy boundaries. And boundaries, and that's the course was going to be about helping you to identify, because in order to identify the missing boundaries, you first need to understand who you are. That is key because once you know who you are, on all the levels or most of the levels, because the rest of the levels will come to you, you start to recognize the patterns and the boundaries that are missing from those patterns in your life. And then I'll give you the tools that will help you to set those boundaries in place and continue. I even came up with a really interesting example walking my dog one last week of one of the lessons that I'm gonna do, and I thought I'm like, ooh, this is gonna be good. Some people might not like it, but that is what's going to drive it home for people to really understand. It's like, oh my God, I see how I am showing up in my life as a abused dog.
Yep. Yep.
A dog is a perfect example of level four.
Yep. That's that's exactly how I felt, trusting again after healing from abuse was uh, I felt like I was an abuse, like a rescue puppy, like getting to know my new human, just like waiting, bracing for anger.
Yeah.
Uh, I just have to say, all right, so you and I have been Zooming for years now.
Yeah.
And whenever I see you go, ooh, this is gonna be good, my heart it just explodes. Like I just love seeing that energy from you because I know you are in your passion, and it just makes me so happy.
Yeah. Thank you.
I just like love that.
Yeah.
Um,
And even with passion, it's normal to also feel scared of it and
mhm.
to put it on pause, so to speak, because our passions sometimes they take over our life, our existence in a way. Um, and it can feel really overwhelming. So I'm saying that because I've been gearing up for the creation of
Yeah.
my religious courses, and I'm starting to put the pieces together, and writing everything out and seeing how it's starting to take shape and what's coming out of it. And then because I'm working with a couple of people to create it, right? So I get that instant feedback. It's like, ooh, this is good. Oh no, let's this doesn't really make sense. So let's change it up. And it's because um, I all of us have different ways of doing things. And one of my biggest messages to myself is that if it's not fun, I'm not doing it. So I had to take a pause, kind of, and a break, and get my head in a place where I can start to see how can I make this fun? How can I make the creation of my quest, and such a quest like boundaries that is so needed for, like, I kid you not, every human being that I have had conversations with, even a couple of people that I just had one coaching session with just for practice. In the end, they were like, "Oh my God, this is so mind blowing," and everything that I'm hearing that they're saying. In the end, I help them to understand that everything that you're going through, all of your struggles, your blocks, your pain and suffering, comes back to lack of boundaries, whether it is with yourself, whether it is with a piece of technology, because again, which attached to yourself, would you did not set a clear boundary with yourself, and so you have this expectation of what you must do in order to achieve something. So yeah, I mean, it's just incredible seeing how it applies to so many things
Yeah.
in our lives, and something so simple that I feel like should be taught at schools.
Yeah. Yeah. We can build our own education. fuck fuck industrialized education. Let's just create our own curriculum. It should be taught in schools. Empathy should be taught in schools. Energy should be taught in schools. The connection between physics and spirituality, like it's time to upgrade our education.
Yeah, and I feel like it is kind of being upgraded, with kids being at home because, again, the way that kids used to, before the industrial world of education took over, how did kids used to learn? In a tribe with a group of people, family, from one another. They did not sit still. They were not forced to sit still. Like, honestly, I instantly go into this clip that I watched, in um, Anne with an E, where they took an indigenous girl and they put her into a school saying that it's going to be perfect, it's going to be good. Wait, sweetie. And then they really were just breaking all these children and forcing them to conform and sit. And that's not how they lived. That's not who they were. And I feel like same thing is happening with the children. Any parents that have a child who is hyperactive, okay, alive, who wants to just run and play and have so much fun, we can't sit still. Schools are trying to break them in a way to conform. You must sit still or you're not going to be accepted.
Yep.
There's something wrong with you because you can't sit still because everybody else is.
Mama,
But it's not that way. Yes, sweetie.
there's like little. I bought a little pack, and there was crushed coffee beans inside.
You got a pack with crushed coffee beans inside?
And it's dirty.
Okay,